Okay.
You don't have to do all that.
Okay.
Hi, I'm the grandmother, and this is the grandson. What is your handles? Not that handles. You know the handles for your. What is your username?
Oh.
Oh.
Trey World Gaming.
Is that the loudest you can talk?
Trey World Gaming.
And it's on what? YouTube?
Yeah.
He's a little bit sick, but he's okay. It's nothing contagious. But he has sinus and allergies. But he wanted to help out. So today we're going to do fried bread. The basic fried bread. It requires what? 2 cups of flour.
Yeah.
You going to put it in there? Remember where the flour at? Yes. We're doing dry mix first. We already pre-measure it for him.
Yeah.
And we need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. It's already pre-mixed. We already know 2 teaspoons.
Yeah.
2 teaspoons equal what? 1 tablespoon, right?
Yeah.
I need you to respond back with me.
Yes.
I'm not doing this by myself. I'm going to cook here.
2 tablespoons.
2 teaspoons equals what? 1 tablespoon.
Yeah.
Okay, you can dump it. And you don't have to worry about that. It'll fall off later.
Okay. Yeah.
And then what's
1
next?
cup of milk.
No, we're not going to put the milk. Remember I told you dry stuff first.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to add the what? What about the salt?
Where's the salt?
You're going to have to use this. Remember, I didn't measure it. How many teaspoons?
2. Wait.
You're a horrible helper.
4.
What did I tell you about the fraction? 1 what?
1/4.
They can't hear you and can't see you.
1/4
Of what?
of a teaspoon of salt.
Okay, so we're using sea salt. So I'm gonna we always use organic salt.
Mhm.
So he's gonna put 1/4. It's not required for those that have high blood pressure or any high sodium. Okay, you finished. That's 1/4. See that 1/4 teaspoon?
Yeah.
That's not that much. So what's the next dry ingredients?
Sugar.
How many? Before you put it in, you need to tell them what you're putting in. They need to be able to see you.
2 tablespoons of sugar.
2 tablespoons of sugar.
Give me that sugar.
You can add sugar. It's not required. You go. We pre-measure it. You got all the sugar in there? You can't eat the sugar now. Look like you was tempted. Okay. Let me fix this because you put your hands over your mouth at all times, remember?
Okay.
Okay. Take this wasp. This is what it is, a wasp. You're going to mix in the dry with all the dry together. Just spin it around. We can use this. You scared of it?
No.
We want to blend it well. We always want to blend our dries together evenly because it has sugar, it has baking powder, flour, and salt. Anytime it's dry products, you want to make sure they're blended thoroughly, especially when it's dealing with flour, meals, or anything like that, because you want an even distribution throughout the mixture. Okay, let me show you.
The reason why is because you're older.
You did good. It's just that when you get older, you just know how to whisk a little bit faster. See how smoother the flour is when you whisk it faster? Okay. Let's, before you start at the wedding there, we want you to know that dealing with fried bread, I'm a Muskogee Creek Nation, and you're
Muskogee Creek Nation
members.
members.
But every household have their own totally ingredients. Sometimes I add extra stuff in it. Sometimes I may want to add sprinkle of cinnamon in it. Sometimes I want to put, I want to make the dough out of little donut holes for them. Sure. But sometimes we just do the tacos, taco bread, or sometimes we just eat the bread by itself with honey. Or just eat it plain because it's good.
Yeah.
The brands that I use, I'm a name brand person. Unless I'm just having a hard time, then I may use King's. It's gold medal. Prefer red flour if you have, but that's all purpose, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we used the old-fashioned Clabber Girl.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this.
I'm a name brand person. Clabber been around for years, so we use that baking powder for there. And if you're interested in the salt, you go to Central Market and you can get this packet, I believe, or Whole Foods. It's just the Himalayan pink salt. We use other sea salts too. They're organic, but this is the one I have in my cabinet today. So he's gonna add another thing. We have knitting tools. We don't, even though this is your basics, we have the knitting tools. The Sunbeam came with the bread knitting tools. So we lucked up on that. So I'm gonna lower this down. He's gonna add the milk, which is how many cups?
One
What?
cup of milk.
Okay. So I'm gonna turn it on whenever he decides to slowly pour it in.
Ooh, I'm trying not to waste it.
He's trying not to waste it, you all. And while this spins, I'm gonna go get a spatula. If I can find it. He getting lazy, y'all. Y'all see that how he go get a chair? Tell him nobody use chairs in the kitchen. Get the back it out. If you can't stand up, you can't get in the kitchen.
My stomach.
Oh, your stomach bothers you. You need to get out then.
Why?
Bye. Have to kick him out the kitchen. Bye. Had to kick him out the kitchen. See, that's what you do when people don't feel well. You kick them out the kitchen. His heart was that he wanted to help out so bad, which he did do his part. So the ingredients should be fine once they finish netting. Another thing, it doesn't make a difference what brand flour, but those are just the brands that I use and I buy regularly. Name brands usually cost a little bit more than your off-brand or store brand. And so, as you notice, the blender is getting wider. It's forming the dough for me. And the reason I get the spatula is because some of the flour does not blend well. I can push it towards the dough to make sure all of it gets blended in. You want to make sure all of the flour consistency, all the dry is mixed up well, where it forms the dough automatically. So I just use this to push it in there. You don't never want to leave all your ingredients behind, none of your ingredients behind. You want a clear, clean bowl. And the other ingredients is in a skillet. In the skillet, you want to make sure you have some type of oil. Now, everybody use what you can afford. Sometimes you might just have coconut oil in the house. Sometimes you may have vegetable oil. Depending on your finances, you might have canola oil. Whatever is that you have available. Well, what you want to do is make sure that you fill your skillet enough up where it can merge. Even if you don't have enough oil, but you have enough oil to cover it halfway, you can still make your fried bread. Then it's your option on which direction or how big or how large you want them. So the thing is, you want to know how it looks. Y'all really want to know how it looks? Do y'all really want to know how it looks? I don't see nobody like it. So I think I don't need to show them. Do I need to show them, Frederick? Why should I show them they not liking it?
It's because if you still do it, eventually they're going to start liking.
He said if I show y'all, eventually one day, y'all start liking my content. I've already turned the oil on, but I'm going to move the skillet over because I had it on the other eye, a little bit closer to me. But what I wanted to do is to show you the dough. See, if you're making fried bread and you got residue still left, you didn't blend it good enough. See, you're supposed to be able to almost have a perfect empty bowl. I like that Sunbeam, and of course it's better qualities of mixing bowl utensils out here in this world, but this is what I have. So usually what I do is I still sprinkle a little flour on my board in case it becomes stick prone to the board. I just glaze it a little just to help with it. That's just me. Everybody's different. And sometimes I still go and knead it even more with my hand. You can take half this dough and do what you want to with it. Cook at what you need. And by me having a little tenderness because of the weather change, it's really uncomfortable for me pushing down today, but I'm gonna still push down. I'm just gonna make probably 4 out of this, so everybody can have their own individual tacos. You can make them half moon shape. Of course, the more you smush down, the thinner they are. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I do have a roller, but why I didn't get it? That's the one more dish I have to clean. It's over here on the table, kitchen table, I believe. So I'm pushing this down because it's just 4 of us in the household. And I'm going to slice this up. Just make sure you have a good cutting knife. Everybody have their own method of doing things. So I don't knock no household on how they cook stuff. Just making a little half moon, stretching it a little bit. Because depending on the bread, sometimes the bread can be, the flour, it can make it too thick. Make it a thick consistency, so that's why it's important is sometimes to get bread flour. Sometimes if you're doing bread, but if you don't, depending on the bread, the flour, I recommend gold medal because it doesn't have that thick consistency. But if you get an off brand, it can make your bread dough when you cook it real thick and gummy like. Okay, I'm gonna sit these aside. scraping this flour out the way. This is what I have, another little board where I need to rinse my tomatoes off. Someone asked me, well, what are you eating? Well, I already had the ground meat and red beans cooked. We still have some left over, but I couldn't find any tomatoes, you all. I couldn't find any lettuce, and so unfortunately I'm in Dallas, Texas, and if you're in a certain neighborhood, stores, demand is not great when it comes to vegetables and fruit and food in general. And sometimes there's a shortage in certain communities with food. Unfortunately, but it's like that. Some areas you can find loads of food. In other areas you cannot. Even with the food shortage. I'm going to go in and start putting this bread in since the oil is hot. So we can fry it. I have a pretty much large skillet. Can fit all 4 pieces in. Sometimes I just stretch the bread because I know it shrinks easily. And right now I'm just chopping up the toppings, the tomatoes. Because remember, I just could not find no tomatoes. And I went to 2 different communities last time and tried to shop online. It was a horrible situation. It has been a horrible situation. It doesn't have anything to do with COVID. These stores either cannot afford to keep food in the grocery stores, or just certain communities, they're not providing food. And that's where I've come to a conclusion, because in certain neighborhoods, depending on nationalities, and you don't want to seem cliche about it, but only certain nationalities you can go to their neighborhood, their families are taken good care of for its food. And so I have to go drive, which I don't mind, into another community just to get what we need in our household. Bad enough, I live in a neighborhood, there's no grocery stores. The grocery store we did have closed down years ago, and then they tried to retemp one about 3 years ago, and that wasn't a success. City of Dallas gave them the person a lot of money, and they couldn't operate it. They had off-brand food. You know, people can have visions, but you can have a vision, but if you don't know how to have the plan down to establish business, it's going to be an epic fail if you don't understand the cost and demand, supply and demand of food. What you're needing. I want you to see how the bread swelling up. So when I finish cutting the tomatoes, I'm going to turn the camera so you can see how the fried bread has swollen up real big. Bigger than what you've seen. And even though these are tomatoes, I'm going to put some seasoning on it. Just because. Just give it a better taste. When I wipe my board down, excuse my arm, but I'm gonna, say, she always got dishes. I'm always cooking. As you can see, this is how swollen up it is. It's swollen bigger than what you were seeing on the camera. Once it turns golden brown, I'll flip it over. I prefer using this type of utensil to do the flipping rather than a fork, but you use what you have. Ooh, look like this bread is going to be delicious this time. Me and my grandson put a little love in it. have this pot. I'm trying to warm up the beans and ground meat that I cooked originally. Red beans and cornbread. Sound better, don't it? What I did is, you put it in the refrigerator. It's frozen hard, so I gotta, I'll give you a tip for those that don't cook. For those that don't cook, when you have beans and they're frozen, it's going to require you to put a little water in the bottom of the skillet so it won't stick. Don't just put it in there trying to warm it up without putting a little water back in there. I'm going to turn the beans up on high and put it on the back eye. My brother said that it was delicious. It was delicious. So I'm going to turn the bread over. I'll let you see how it looked before I put it back in. See how it is? I'm turning it on the opposite side so it can cook. See how puffy it gets it? You have to be in the kitchen cooking fried bread. You can't leave it for those that can't cook. And my little tomatoes, so, you know, I'm not a tomato lover, but I'm going to put some little black pepper, a little salt on them. I'm not a tomato lover. To give it a little flavor. This is my first toppings. And this flour I'm going to dump in the trash. You want to either have some kind of towel, if you don't have any paper towels, put down to catch that oil though. Doesn't require much. Fried bread. Doesn't take long. And just make sure you put your grease off the hot iron, cut it off. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Once the beans warm, I'm going to show you how I make the taco. My family loves it. I'll show you all how to make it in a minute. And thank those that did tune in. I'm going to use this. I don't know why I like these little bowls. I got them at Target. This love. They're not too deep. They're not too... But they're just perfect for like bowl dishes, like pastas and stuff like that. And they were very inexpensive. But I like those little bowls. Plastic bowls. This is what we'll usually do, is put one inside of a bowl or on a plate. It doesn't make a difference. And then you top it with your beans. I usually, in my red beans, I use chili pepper, whether it's mild or hot or spicy, the powder. That's what I put in my beans. And you just put all kind of seasons in your beans and ground meat. I fry my ground meat first and drain the grease off of it. Then after the red pinto beans turns red based on the chili powder. For those that don't know, some people cook pinto beans and don't know that what makes that red hue is the chili powder. And so usually instead of buying it in a container, I had used mild chili powder. I got this at Central Market, and I buy it by the pound. And then I just put it in different mason jars. I save little jars, even I get glass jars for other stuff like jams and stuff, and I repurpose it. What all go on the taco? What all go on the taco salad? The basic creek fried taco, or what they say fried taco, is you top it with the red beans and ground meat if you like ground meat on top. You add your lettuce, your tomatoes, your cheese, all that. If you want to add sour cream, you can. And you dig in. I'm always peaching off of their bread. That's what cooks got to do. They test the products before they put it out in the market. You hear somebody hollering Diamond, you know it's Diamond, my little girl, a pet. She always into something and aggravating everybody because she's bored. Trust the process. I'm telling you all, if you just got on, I'm gonna tell you the ingredients again so you can do it on your own. 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 cup of milk. It can be any kind of milk. If you want to use coconut milk, if you want to use 2%, 1% milk, if you want to use soy milk, vitamin D milk, it'll work fine. I've used all those brands. Use what you have in your kitchen or what's at the stores these days. And usually it's hardly nothing. And I told you about 1 cup of milk, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar. Salt and sugar is optional, but it makes it sweeter if you add a little sugar. It just put a little peck in the ingredients. But that is a basic bread ingredients, and it's delicious. I'm telling you, if you're single and you're trying to get this man, he'll fall in love with your bread and want you to cook it all the time. If you like bread, it's gonna go fast. I don't care who it is. Every time I cook this bread, it goes fast. They eat it. Sometimes they'll forget the tacos and just eat the bread. I wake up, I have a whole pan of this bread, and I'm thinking it's gonna be for morning. It'll be already gone. I have to go and make another batch. That's how delicious. That little simple recipe: 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. You hear me? Baking powder. Baking powder. 1 cup of milk. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm getting it all mixed up. So let me start all over again. And I'm gonna start with the dries. And remember, your dry recipes you blend first, and preferably do it with a wasp first. Because a blender don't necessarily blend it thoroughly. It just flies the powder everywhere. But if you don't have that, then you use your blender or your hand. Do it the old school way. But this helps it blend all the dry well, evenly throughout the flour. So I'm going to say it again. 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, of course, fried bread, Creek fried bread, it doesn't make a difference what tribes. Every tribe got their own name for it. But all of it's fried bread. Whether if you're from the Seminole tribe, it doesn't make a difference. You don't even have to be from a tribe. If you just like it, you just like it. But a lot of people say Indian tacos. It is nothing but fried bread, and they just putting toppings on top of it. That's all it is. It's just a basic bread dough that is simple and it's less expensive. It's not that expensive. Doing this inflation is probably the best mechanism of saving. Get you a bag of pinto beans, get you some flour, baking powder, keep milk and salt and sugar. Those are basic things that needed in the kitchen anyway, regardless who you are. So I'm going to repeat again for anyone that comes on how to make a basic fried bread, and you'll find variations of ingredients based on what they include. Some may have less baking powder, some may have less flour. They have less flour and less baking powder and less salt. It's because it's the quantity that you're making. I made 4 out of 2 cups of medium large size fried bread. Of course, it could have been broken down, but it's nothing but 4 of us here, and I'm not going to bake up a whole lot. I'm just not going to do it. Now, if I wanted to use that same recipe and divide up in little small pieces and make little like breakfast biscuits, you get your eggs, bacon. It's delicious, whatever you cook with it. I'm telling you, it's better than biscuits. For those that just come on, how the ingredients for a basic fried bread. And remember, everybody's ingredients may vary. It doesn't mean that it's not it. I've seen different recipes that have little this and little that, and some use milk and some don't. Some use other sour milk. They use different types of milk. Some don't. Some may use water, whatever basis that they use. But it's 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 cup of milk, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Keep in mind, it does not require the sugar and salt, especially if you have health problems. If you're suffering from a high sodium, high sugar content, you can eliminate the salt because it's not that much of 1/4. 1/4 is not a lot. 1/4, that 1/4 can still send somebody to the doctor if their sugar levels and their blood levels are off levels, especially if their sodium level is off levels, or too low, or too high. And the sugar is none but 1 tablespoon. If I say you put 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, depends on how sweet you want it. I've used 2 tablespoons before. I've used 1 tablespoon before. But 2 teaspoons equal 1 tablespoon. Keep that in mind. So if you want to put the more sugar, I believe you put 1 tablespoon in. But if you want to put 2 tablespoons to make the bread even more sweeter, you can. It's your preference. It doesn't take away from it. Some people have a sweeter tooth than others. To make it sweet, you can. And just top it off with honey. If you love honey, you will fall in love with that bread and that honey. You will fall in love. And just make sure you make some pinto beans. I'm sorry that I didn't show the process of pinto beans or beans period, because I do it a lot. You can on my Facebook account. It's called Sugar Babies Girls. On that page, I do a lot of different cooking, or I leave a lot of recipes. A lot of these recipes is what my mother had taught me. And a lot of it is to help people that cannot cook. They're cooking dummies. They just don't even know the basic. Even from the first egg over easy, making a basic biscuit, making homemade cornbread. These are general basics to the survival. Due to inflation, I would suggest that you all go back to practicing cooking at home, buying the necessities. But now it's getting difficult in certain neighborhoods to purchase stuff, because if you live in a rural area or a less advantaged neighborhood based on the economic or growth of it, you're less likely to see certain products. It'll always be sold out. I did a video about Family Dollar, Targets. in my community, and it's a large community in the southeast part, in certain stores, you cannot find certain products that are basics. When you go in the store and you can't find ground meat, they're out of chicken, turkey, they out of butter, they out of eggs, and they may have a little selections of milk. Y'all better wake up. That means you have to drive a little further to another neighborhood just to get what you need for your household. And everybody don't have transportation, but in the city of Dallas, we do have the train and buses. Just take longer. It may take you an hour, 2 hours to get from one side of town and just get to the store and back. It can be very time consuming. But I even went around into a southwest Oak Cliff. It was more of a Hispanic neighborhood. I'm familiar because my son's father's mother used to live in that area. It's a nice neighborhood. And I went into one of their Jerry's Supermarket. I love that store. They are not lacking nothing. They take care of their people. So unfortunately, if you're African American, you're going to have to go to a Hispanic neighborhood or a Caucasian to get food for all types of food. I was sitting in the store, in another store, guy said, and I was in Pleasant Grove area today. He stood up, this black guy, he stood up and said, ooh, it would be good to have some blueberries. That store didn't sell blueberries. It doesn't sell stuff. So the stores are not created equal. We are big in Dallas, but there's issues with supply and demand and what neighborhood you live in if you get to be able, unless you just adventurous and gonna go out and go to those stores and find the things that's healthy for your family. I've been hearing since the 70s, and it has not changed. Anybody come in, they ain't lived long enough than I have to see what has been going on in the city of Dallas. I've seen a whole lot going on. I know a lot, but I just don't say a lot all the time. But when I'm saying something, my mother had been doing this for years. We live in an area that's more of a country and a city. We live on the cusp of the country, Hutchinson, Dallas, but we're a city of Dallas because our neighboring city is either Hutchinson, Wilmer Hutchinson, Lancaster, DeSoto. Those are suburb areas. The area I am is more like, we used to call it, on one side cows, and we stay on more city side, but even it's the same neighborhood, but we was never given a proper store. The store we did have, they shut down a long time ago, and it still didn't have everything, but it had majority everything. So just imagine, this is Dallas, and it's just a neighborhood. And if a neighborhood in the city of Dallas having problem getting food, come on now, you have to be real on it. Real about stuff. So it's just, it's getting worse because they want to blame inflation, when we know inflation is not the issue. the system is the issue. Now, I was in Pleasant Grove. Now, I had been to Target's this morning in Southeast Oak Cliff, which is a little bit further down the street from me, probably like maybe 5 to 8 minutes down the street from me. I went to the Target's off of I-20. It's, in certain black neighborhoods, there are major stores is off the freeway, unfortunately, in Dallas. Unless you live in a nice community, you see stores everywhere. But I went in Target's. It was a big full-service Target's. And I'll show videos later about how empty it is. And it's not the first time. But I went to, it was nothing in there. I couldn't find lettuce. I couldn't find tomatoes. I couldn't find ground meat. They didn't have hardly nothing on those shelves. And it's not the first time. It's been going on even before COVID and after COVID. People's in denial about how certain businesses are serving. And if you notice, some of these fast foods and stores are shutting down. When you start seeing Jack in the Box close out some of their stores, it's a lot of stores that people are not paying attention. They're shutting down certain stores in certain areas if it does not meet their financial criteria. And it doesn't have to do with that for anything. But I was at another store that's in Pleasant Grove off of Ledbetter. I can't even remember the store. It's called Hunt's grocery store. A person from Dallas, they shop in Dallas, they know all the stores. But it's Hunt's grocery store off of It's on the right-hand side in a shopping center, rundown shopping center. It ain't no elaborate. It's in the hood. That end of Pleasant Grove, just hooded. But you find different nationalities that live there. But in their grocery store, they only had 5 bags of this shredded lettuce. This is name brand. I wasn't trying to go for the name brand, but even the head of lettuce, they were asking for too much for it. Some of the places I've seen that, and when they asked too much for it, they didn't even have a large abundance of a lot of stuff. So that's another thing. The prices are ridiculous. I stood in the store, even on the other end of West Oak Cliff, at that Jerry supermarket, and there's a mixed couple in the store. They said, we'll just go to Walmart, but they don't know Walmart's is like that too. Their price is high. They was trying to get some eggs and had to bypass them because the eggs for, I guess like an 18 pack was $12. 12 eggs was anywhere from $6 to $7. This is something that less than 2 or 3 months ago only cost $2. So we have to be real with it. You can't be in denial about this. So what I'm going to do, my ground meat, I was going to scoop, but I changed my mind. Now I'm going to scoop it because it's better. I'm making a plate for my brother first. He's the oldest. Anybody that was raised in a household like that where they fix the older people's plates first and then the children last, that's how our household used to be. Well, not my mama, but the whole family, that's how they would do us. You see, I just top it off with ground meat and red beans. That's all I did. He's a big guy. He likes to eat. And even though this is steam hot, piping hot, what I want to do is I usually put my lettuce on top of sometime, but I'm going to go on and shred this on top of that because I want some of that cheese to get in there. He don't like cheese that much. But technically, we just top it with whatever toppings you want. Put a little bit more cheese on top of the lettuce. And put some tomatoes on top of it. And basically, voila. That's what they call a fried bread taco. Of course, with this taco, you have to have a fork and possibly a knife. Some people don't. But I want to just go on and cut off a little piece of his. He don't mind. So, this bread and juices, oh, delicious. Jonathan! Yours is ready.
What?
Your taco. And it's on the table. So it's nothing but bread. That's all. See how surprisingly that's all it is. So this is my grandson. I don't want to waste food because his stomach is little, but I'm gonna place it in here and I'm gonna top it so he can have him a little one. You know, kids, their eyes is bigger than their stomachs. They usually waste your food, so you gotta be careful how much you give them. I'm just gonna top him with a little more cheese because he might like a little cheese on his little beans. And then I'm going to top these little... I put salt and pepper on the tomatoes. Just gave him a little taco. That's all I did. I'm telling you, for those that just came on, if you didn't get the recipe, it's 2 cups of flour. I say preferable get bread flour, but if you're not, I usually get gold medal flour, all-purpose flour, but I usually buy the bread flour since I want to do bread products. But if I don't have the money or whatever's in the kitchen flour, that's what I use. I've used other brands. the reason I can tell you this, every brand is different. Every brand is different. There is no brand the same. I have to sit this up here because my dog will get it from my grandson, and he'll be looking for his plate. And see, I just top it with this honey. Those that know, it's soft and delicious. You all don't know. Just make sure you get some good honey. Our honey is not created equal. It's not. But let me give you this recipe again. The recipe is 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 cup of milk, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar. I'm going to say it again for those that just coming in. It's 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar. Always mix and blend your dry mixes first thoroughly. Mix them together. Then add your milk. Never add your milk first, then start dumping your flour and your salt. No, you mix this with the flavoring. It has a lot of reason that you mix it up. The flour needs the baking soda. The baking soda needs the salt and sugar. The flour and the baking soda has to be distributed evenly. It has a lot to do with the texture, the rising of your bread. No matter what bread you got, even if you're making pancakes, I don't care what you're making, it still has a lot to do with how well the texture, as well as how much it rises. And if it's not evenly distributed, it's not going to taste the same. That's just like me using different brand flours. You think, oh, it's all the same. No, some of the ingredients are different. If you look at the back of the package, they may have some of the bases, but sometimes their ingredients are a little bit different than the next one. And the texture may be different in the flour. It may give you a thicker or pastier taste. So you have to be careful on the flours that you use. Recommended is the bread flour. But if you can't get the gold medal bread flour, get all-purpose flour. You can use any brand of flour. Don't get me wrong, but that's just my preference is gold medal. Even with cakes. Don't let them fool you out here thinking, why do you think certain people's food tastes different? Because it's the brands that they using. I cook with all kind of brands. And my mother always told me, never shortcut on your food. Because what you use, what you purchase, has a lot to do with it. How it tastes can change everything. Everybody's food don't taste the same. Everybody's texture don't taste the same. But I wanted you to share this ingredients with you because it's Native American Heritage Month. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to do the blackberry dumpling or not. But if I do, it'll probably be at the end of the month. But I will probably show you the over the stove blackberry dumpling. If you like blackberries, it'll be fine. And remember, you can make pies, dumpling on top of the stove as well as the oven. But it's not knowing how to make the dough. That's the main thing, is getting the basic. When you learn how, I think the first thing my mother taught me, she told me the ingredients to a basic biscuit, delicious homemade biscuits. When you're learning how to cook, you have to know how to do the egg over easy, the basic biscuits, and everything else will come naturally. Because when you think about a biscuit, it's nothing but the thick consistency of what you're adding to it for its the liquid form, no different than this bread. This bread requires only 1 cup of milk. You do bread, it's less liquids. Depending on if you're doing biscuits, it's less liquids. So it all depends on what you're making. But the basics still remain the same. You may add a little this and that to help the flavoring. But Creek fried bread, it's addictive, you all. Oh, Lord. Honey and Creek fried bread is my addiction. That's why I try not to make it that often. I try not to make it that often because they like it. I mean, I like it. And I used to be the first one. You gotta get a fork.
Move.
That's my grandson. He helped out in the beginning. I'm going to let you all go. But before I leave, for those that may have staggered in, I'm going to go on and give you the ingredients again. It's 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 cup of milk. If I didn't say it again, I'm going to say it again. 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 cup of milk. And I appreciate everybody that joined in. Please share my video. Please continue to like, replay it, share it to someone else that may need to know how to cook fried bread or just how to cook it all. And just remember, everybody cooks different. There's no good cook or bad cook. But there's some cooks that just don't know what the hell they doing. But everything you can find by following the recipe like it's supposed to. But once you learn the basics, you can pretty much conquer anything. If you learn how to do the basics of breads, breads to turn into biscuits, breads, rolls, down to cakes and dough. Those are just basic ingredients. It's just learning the consistency, what you should put in and what you should not. Hope y'all enjoyed it and y'all have a great Sunday. And see you later.